The electronic music business is a voracious system, and every so often it feeds on its own artists. Stars go from playing at large festivals to small bars, every day of the year without any day off. Some even exceed 150 annual concerts, a number much higher than any popular rock or pop band. DJ Avicii is one of these cases. Unfortunately, he couldn't win the battle against the pressure of popularity and loneliness. After several fights against depression, alcoholism, and fame, he dedicated himself to writing his memoirs, his thoughts, in a private diary. The last sentence he wrote in his notebook said, "The detachment of the soul is the last attachment before it restarts." These words were written on April 20th, 2018, the day Avicii died. The real name of this musician was Tim Bergling, and he was born on September 8, 1989 in the city of Stockholm, Sweden. Son of Klas Bergling and actress Anki Liden, who has worked in over 50 films and television programs since the 70s. Tim also had 3 siblings. The young DJ started with music at the early age of 8 years, and thanks to the inspiration of his DJ brother, he continued with the love for electronic music until his last days. At the beginning of his career, blogs were the ones who marked the start of his journey. Thanks to his publications, he was discovered by who would be his first manager. It was when he was 18 years old, and it was thanks to his remix of the song from the Commodore 64 video game Lazy Jones. The curious thing is that at the time of the sale, this theme was already 5 years old, which tells us that he had remixed it at the age of 13. While selling this theme that same year, 2008, Avicii released his first own production, Man Man, after winning a competition. 2 years later, he continued publishing his works under different aliases like Jovici, and then came his signing for Electric and Musical Industries Music and his first world tour. From his professional path, he didn't stop climbing the list of the best world DJs. On the other hand, he continued using pseudonyms such as Tim Burke and enjoying his success through 2 different paths, as Avicii released tracks under different artistic names. A recurring question that comes to mind every time we hear about this great artist is, what does the name Avicii mean? Some have come to say that it has some reference to a satanic pact, something that took him to the height of fame, at the cost of his own soul, but these are internet conspiracy theories. The reality is completely different. Tim Bergling called himself Avicii for the term Avicii with a single I at the end, a term that in Buddhism represents the lowest level of hell, where people who have committed sins can be reborn. They say that it was a friend of Tim Bergling who told him about the existence and meaning of this word, and that he loved it when he heard it. If we go to Buddhist philosophy and religious beliefs, Avicii is not an eternal place like hell is, for example, for Christians, but it is a place where they remain the longest time until their soul manages to purify itself and be reborn. The DJ liked this name and wanted to use it on MySpace to upload his songs, but it turns out it was already being used by another user. So, in order to have the name Avicii on MySpace, he had to add an extra Latin I at the end. And that's why his name is spelled with 2 I's at the end. Then when he became famous, he continued to use it this way, and that's how the name stuck. The year 2011 was a breakthrough year for him, thanks to his sampling of a 1962 song called "Something's Got a Hole in Me" by Etta James, which he titled Levels. This track made him even more popular and topped the charts in countless countries. Wake Me Up and Hey Brother were also part of his first and successful album, True. This became one of the best-selling albums of the season, and he became one of the highest paid and most sought-after DJs of the time. In addition to creating songs that were heard in every corner of the planet, he also co-wrote and co-produced Coldplay's songs A Sky Full of Stars and Hymn for the Weekend. It's worth noting that as a music producer, he also received great recognition from the industry. This earned him not only the attachment of his great colleagues, but he was also mentioned in different songs as a reference in electronic music. This happens, for example, in the song I Took a Pill on Ibiza by Mike Posner, where he literally says the phrase, "I took a pill in Ibiza to show Avicii I was cool." Shortly after, he reached number 3 on the DJ Mag countdown, being the youngest DJ to enter the top 10, and collaborated with Madonna, closing the main stage of Ultra Miami with the Queen of Pop. He continued to advance and grow until in 2013 he won the award for Best Electronic Music Artist at the Music Television European Music Awards. Meanwhile, he continued to create singles and albums that kept him at the top of the electronic scene. But soon, health problems invaded Berlin due to his intense lifestyle. From that moment, he began to think about retirement. Theoretically, the problem started due to an appendectomy that did not go well, and this was exacerbated by acute pancreatitis he suffered from excessive alcohol consumption. But health problems were not new to him, as since he was a child, he had to be hospitalized for different ailments. In January of 2012, he was hospitalized for 11 days in New York City with pancreatitis, and in 2014, he underwent surgery and had his appendix and gallbladder removed. Obviously, this led him to cancel several of his tours. After this, Avicii surprised his millions of followers around the world when he announced his live retirement in an emotional letter he posted on his website. In 2016, he announced his retirement from the stage and decided to release True Stories, a documentary where he talked about the difficulty of maintaining a balance between his personal life and his life as a celebrity. After his retirement, he stated, "2 weeks ago I took the time to drive across the United States with my friends and my team, just to look, see and think about things in a new way. It really helped me realize that I needed to make the change that I had been struggling with for so long." According to later statements, he was very nervous at the time of making this post because he felt that he was somehow letting down both his colleagues and his followers. But he was pleasantly surprised by the way they took this announcement, giving him all their support and telling him that if that was what he needed, that was fine, that he should take all the time he wanted, and that if this was his retirement, that was perfect for them. Really, everyone's response was incredible. This difficult decision led him to a better internal and personal moment. He was totally stressed out by the continuous performances, loneliness, and his problems unrelated to music, and he closed the statement saying, "I just don't think I'm going to return to the touring life." Avicii had all the time to dedicate to himself. That's why in 2018 he traveled to Oman with a friend. In that place, he wanted to start meditating, more specifically based on the teachings of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who believed that a person would stop suffering if they reached the deepest state of consciousness or enlightenment. These spiritual retreats to retrospective thoughts. But the DJ, instead of using the suggested 20 minutes, meditated for hours. Over time, he got used to these meditations. He said the following, "I feel as if I were in a new default mode of being that the fears of the last days wreaked havoc on. Me, but I remember the advice to focus on my breathing." 2 hours that Avicii spent meditating and got in touch with his father, Klaus Berglin. He told him that his son spent almost all day crying, and that he didn't speak, and that he spent all day sitting meditating under a scorching sun. The saddest thing for this friend is that days later he would have the difficult task of communicating to Klaus Berglin about the death of his son. Tim Berglin, alias Avicii, died near Muscat in Oman. He was found dead in his hotel room. The causes of his death were not immediately revealed. A situation that obviously added to the concern of his fans and curiosity produced a myriad of conspiracies and theories. The day after his death, the police denied that it was a murder. It was his family who took care of giving the statement to the press and fans through a letter. On April 20th of 2018, he would have taken his own life at the age of 28, depressed for several years. Apparently, he would have taken his own life by cutting his veins with a bottle. In the family letter they communicated, he really struggled with thoughts about meaning, about life and happiness. Now he could no longer continue, he just wanted to find peace. Tim was not made for the business machine he found himself in. He was a sensitive guy who loved his fans but avoided the spotlight. The motivation for his passing was totally linked to massive success and the responsibilities he was acquiring. But apparently, there were those who thought his death was not due to this. One of his friends and colleagues, the famous DJ David Guetta, told the press days later, "People have the image that we are always having fun. It's true that it's an important part of our life and it's amazing to do what you love, but in this job you never stop." Statements from within the music circle did not wait, and many DJs came out to talk about it. In addition to these statements, Avicii's personal diary entries were added, so phrases like the following appeared. "Once you've taken a turn, guess what? You start again from the beginning. Those days in the hospital were the most stress-free days I can remember in the last 6 years. Those were my real vacations, as depressing as that may sound. The future team handles pain better than the current team, because there are already too many present pains that are more urgent to confront." But obviously the conspiracy theories didn't wait. Anonymous, the hacker organization responsible for leaking the alleged confidential information, spread the theory that debunked his suicide and explained that it would have all been a murder. It was said that Avicii could have had information related to the abuse crimes that Jeffrey Epstein was accused of. Conspiracy theorists obviously sided with Anonymous and supported this theory, theoretically due to his work he would have seen. He would have witnessed things that he should not have seen, and that compromised big figures both in music and Hollywood, as well as different power circles, and that's why they would have silenced him. One of the theories pointed out that Avicii knew much more than he was saying. For example, the music video for A Better Day, where a group of abusers were pursued by some activists. What do you think? Or is this simply a fabrication like all the theories that have been presented lately in deaths, like for example Chester Bennington's or Chris Cornell's? I'd like to read your comments below. The reasons to doubt the information that Anonymous would have provided come precisely from the documentary True Stories, which portrays the artist's last professional stage, and where he confesses that he is going through a severe depression, that he is an alcoholic, and that he is addicted to tranquilizers. Colleagues, representatives, and friends later explained that he was in a self-destructive spiral and that he didn't go out partying unless it was due to his concert obligations. At the time of his death, Avicii had amassed an incredible fortune for his young age. 22 million euros were inherited by his parents, Anki Leiden and Klaas Berglin, a figure that was close to Forbes' estimate but which placed him third on the podium of the world's highest paid DJs, behind Calvin Harris and David Guetta. This amount should also include the earnings that his music continues to generate from copyright and from his posthumous album. Despite earning millions, Avicii doesn't place great significance on his wealth. He himself said in an interview, "When I started making money, I discovered that I really didn't need it. When you have an excess of money that you don't need, the most sensible, the most humane, and the most obvious thing to do is to give it to people in need." That's why he decided to donate a large part of it. For example, the proceeds from his 2012 tour in the United States, he gave to Feed in America, an American organization against hunger. In addition, in 2013, he gave $1 million to the Swedish non-governmental organization Radio Halpen, which collects money for humanitarian purposes. Today, Avicii's family owns the Tim Berkeley Foundation in honor of the DJ. This foundation raises money to raise awareness for various causes, starting with those related to mental illness and suicide prevention. The foundation also addresses issues such as climate change, development assistance, nature conservation, and endangered species. To create his memory and continue acting in his spirit, the family explained in a statement, "I will never set aside music. I will continue to speak to my fans through it," his farewell letter said when he retired. And this is very true because to this day he remains in the hearts of all his fans. That concludes today's video about Avicii's life, which many of you had requested. I hope you found it interesting. Since we've made similar videos about Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, and others, please leave a like if you're interested. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. I'll leave some recommendations for you to continue watching on this channel. Please also comment with suggestions for future videos. With nothing more to say, I say goodbye. My name is Magnum Hephisto, and this was The Day That.